You're listening to Artistic Finance, show 203. On today's show, we talk with Jesse AlFord, a theatrical lighting designer in Louisville, Kentucky. We discuss lighting and teching a circus, panic canceling recurring donations, home ownership positives and negatives, buying your own gear to make your work easier, and not needing a down payment to purchase a home. Before we get to the interview, I want to mention some good news that happened this week. It comes from across the pond in the UK at the Royal Court Theatre. So they are a nonprofit theater, a big one that's been around for 150 years. They announced higher fees for their directors, writers, and their core creatives, including their designers. So they're making some big strides. Specifically, they said that their directors in their large theater are going from a £9,000 fee to $18,000, and their set and costume designer fee is going from roughly £8,000 to £16,000. So that is a 100% increase in their fees. And then their 90-seat theater, which I assume is their small theater, those fees are increasing by 50%. So directors are going from roughly £7,000 to $10,500, and the set/costume design fee is going from £6,000 to £9,000. And they mentioned that all their other design fees are going up by 25 to 50%. So this is huge, and it is wonderful news, and I wasn't expecting it. And I'm going to read a statement from their artistic director, David Byrne, and their executive director, Will Young. "We all need a royal court where everyone can make their best work, optimistic about new writing and the future. This is an invitation to artists and freelancers. The royal court will support you artistically and financially. The commitments we're announcing today are not easy and are significant for our budgets, but they're vital. It's our hope that if this is achievable even in difficult times, then here with us, surely anything can feel possible." Now, for context, I did look up the annual budget of the organization, and it's around £9 million, depending on how you measure. So they're not a hole-in-the-wall theater. If someone is equipped to do it, it would be an institution like them. But still, that's a big jump. 50% is not something to scoff at. So today, Jesse and I are going to mention $750 fees. So if that were to go up by 50%, my quick math, that's like roughly $1,100. So going from $750 to $1,100, that's a minor scale. But for the freelancer receiving that, it's a significant thing. I don't know about this situation or why they did this. I do know that they've had some worker issues in the past, and maybe this is a result of working through that. I don't know. But regardless, I am absolutely thrilled about this because, yes, it's over in a different continent from the USA. It's a whole different situation. But it's somebody setting a precedent that is fantastic, and other institutions can look to this. Right? I'll be dead and buried potentially by the time this trickles down, if that's a thing. So I've put a link to this announcement in the show notes, and there are also links to everything else we discussed today, including the arts accountant that Jesse mentions, and those can be found at artisticfinance.com/203. Without further ado, let's get to the show.
You are listening to Artistic Finance, where we help creatives learn about the business of show business.
Welcome and thank you for listening. I am your host, Ethan Steimel, broadcasting out of Lake St. Louis, Missouri. We are recording this June 11th, 2026, and the news, again, as always, I don't really pay attention, but I do know that Donald J. Trump put his name onto the Kennedy Center and that a judge has ordered him to take that name off of the Kennedy Center, which, fantastic. I don't know that that's happened yet. But I was thinking about this, and it's like when Nicole and I lived in New York for 10 years, and when we were there, I loved going to see Grant's tomb. I don't know why. I just did. Um, and I was like, what if somebody was just like, we should call this the Donald J. Trump Grant's Tomb? Like, that would be ludicrous, right? Anyway, I just think it's a funny story. But today we are here with a fellow lighting designer, Jesse AlFord. Welcome, Jesse.
Thank you. Thank you. This is great.
Where are you broadcasting out of?
I'm in Louisville, Kentucky, in my home.
Awesome. All right, Jesse. So I don't know you very well, but we met because I am working at Webster University in St. Louis, and you light a circus in St. Louis every summer. So through that, we were connected. And you also gave me tickets to go see the show. So we took Theo to see the show, and it was amazing. Thank you. I got to meet you there, which was pretty great. But I don't want to assume anything, but was that your wife and kid there?
Yes.
Amazing. Okay. Beautiful family. It felt like a very family event for me because I was like, oh, here I am with my family and there Jesse is with his family. Like, look at all these. And like, I'm a man, Jesse, whatever that means. But I don't always like feel that protective, like I'm a man, I'm going to defend my family. But there was something about that event where I just thought, look at these fathers, like being sort of like protective of their families in the circus environment, which is a very safe environment. Anyway, it was a lovely event. Thank you for taking us.
Well, before I was 100% sure it was you, I think you had a moment where you took Theo out. You texted me later to touch every porta potty, and then I think you were stuck in the aisle or the vom holding him during the flying trapeze act, and that is an amount of chaos in the room where like I understand that feeling of like you're in this strange, wonderful, incredible environment, and there's rigging all over the place, and you're trapped near an exit, and it's still a pretty good view of that act.
Exactly. That is true. Yeah, we were blocked, and of course he wanted to go back to mom, who was still in her seat, and of course, yeah, it was like cordoned off because obviously rigging and flying people and dangerous stuff. So I had to like hold him so that he couldn't jump out of my arms and go get into trouble. Well, okay, I want to talk about maybe circus and circus lighting at the end, but I know that not everybody that listens to this cares about lighting or circuses. So I have questions for you from that show, but I'll circle back to that. And let's start off with, we know you're in Louisville. What is your story as a person, as a career, as a life? Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm from Southern California. It's good that circus is a part of this conversation because the conversation inevitably involves circus. When I was a kid, I was in a youth circus program. So for me, circus was what to other people is Little League or soccer or whatever. Like I did circus after school for all of grade school, all the way through high school, and loved it. It was just fantastic. I thought I was done with that when I went to college. I thought I was going to be a veterinarian. I took chemistry once and learned that wasn't going to happen. I had a mid-college crisis, wondering if I was actually done with circus or not. Took a break, went to San Francisco, did as many circus things as possible, and had the realization. It was not a light bulb moment. I don't know when this happened, but I realized that technical theater is technical circus. If I could finish a college degree, I had college paid for 4 years, like very lucky, but there was not going to be a fifth year or a second degree or anything. And Washington State University is not a school that is known for its theater program. Like it would not have ended up there. But I went back to school. The theater program was loose enough that I could rearrange it and pack it all into, I think, 3 semesters and a summer. And with only 1 or 2 favors from professors of, can I take these things out of order? Otherwise, I'm here for another 3 semesters. And that's how I fell into lighting, was just the luck of being in Ben Gonzales's lighting class. Huge shout out to Ben Gonzales. I would be doing whatever it was he was teaching. The theater world is small. There are people listening to this that know him. But because it was a short period of time, I was not fully employable. I came to love theater in college, but I needed more. And so then luckily I got the internship at Actors Theater of Louisville here in town. And that is what brought me to Louisville. And then it just steamrolled or snowballed. Didn't steamroll. I'm upright. Snowballed from there. They hired me on for a couple seasons. And then I knew enough people locally that I decided to try freelancing before I was off my parents' health insurance. 15 years later, something maybe a little bit more than that, here we are. I've skipped some broad strokes in there. Like when I started freelancing, I also reached out to circus folk. So I started teaching circus and working as a circus coach more. So for about 10 years there, I did both. I was like teaching circus on the weekends and in tech during the week. And now I'm just in lighting, which is wonderful. I love circus with my whole heart, but I'm glad to have one career.
Yeah. Okay. So we're looking at it from a lighting perspective, like in hindsight. So we're like putting this lighting onto you, but it sort of started, as you said, like the opposite way. But when you were saying that in college you decided to study technical theater, that was because you thought, I know circus inside out. So if I learn the technical parts of it, then there could be a career there for me. Is that
Yeah, yeah, or at least like then that pathway is open. If I wanted to be a circus rigger or whatever, then I'm not a total chump making that phone call. I had no idea what the plan was. I just knew that that was far more interesting than getting a business degree with no plan or something like that.
Yeah. And I don't want to age you, but also I'm curious how old you are. And I'm just trying to figure out. So you went to Louisville, you're still there, and presumably you met your wife there.
We actually met in college.
So they moved with you.
Yes, yes,
Oh,
a bold, brave move.
that's wild.
We definitely came out here thinking that it was a quick 9-month internship, and then we'd go back to the West Coast. And what a fun Kentucky adventure that was! And it's been a minute. I'm 38. I graduated college in
Same.
2010. Nice. My wife graduated a year before me and did a similar post college internship, but back home in Port Townsend, Washington area. She was a stage manager. She doesn't do that anymore, but that's why we know each other, is the theater program in college.
And that's why they were willing to move across the country, because they were familiar with this theater world.
Yes, and ready to be done with their stage management internship. Like, let's shake it up, do something new. Yeah.
That's super cool. That's super cool. Because one, like I just last week, well, these are all recorded out of order. So whenever the Tony Awards won, I was talking on that episode about the Broadway binary, which is like there's either Broadway or there's not. When we think Louisville, we don't think, oh, there's a bunch of lighting designers or people living in Louisville. But here we are. You're in Louisville. I'm in St. Louis. I consider us both lighting people.
I feel very strongly about like acknowledging that there is local art, and local art is important, and local art can be the goal. You don't get into lighting to be a Broadway lighting designer. If it happens, fantastic, but good art has to happen here as well.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, and then also getting we'll say getting out of theater. Are you still involved in theater? Is your main thing circus stuff?
My freelance like career gigs and stuff, like anybody trying to work in entertainment, is that's a broad brush. Surely I'm wrong there, but definitely started in theater and community theater and semi-professional theater, and learning the chops there, and building a network and community based around theater. At this point, I do far less theater. My bread and butter is ballet. I'm the lighting director and resident lighting designer for the Louisville Ballet, which has gotten me relationships with like Cincinnati Ballet, and that also has snowballed. At this point, the theater that I do is luckily all new and quirky and interesting. I'm saying all of that, and I'm going to say it's mostly with Kentucky Shakespeare, which sounds like old theater, but they call me for all of their new weird stuff. I do all of their Halloween spooky shows, which are often immersive and new works, or their winter series that has been a lot of the new adaptations of classic literature. So in January, we did Emma, Pride and Prejudice, all of the new like Kate Hamill plays, some theater, but my circus background has led me into more people moving art and less theater.
Yeah, yeah. And then of your like 12 months of a year, how much of that is on the road versus in Louisville?
At this point, I travel much less. Circus Flora in St. Louis is a gig that I've had for 11 seasons now. Pandemic makes that hard to count, but I've done 11 opening nights. I counted that.
Wait, I just actually, sorry, I just want to throw this out. I have not done any gig for 11 years. So I just want to say congratulations to you for sticking with like the same company for 11 years. There's collaborators I have that I've known for longer than 11 years, but I think like 6 years is like, I did it a summer stock, and I think maybe 6 years. Anyway, so good on you. Congratulations, Jesse.
Thanks. Well, yeah, thank you for seeing that. It really changes the nature of a gig to have it that long. Like, and I, for some reason, this season was really introspective about that. But yeah, your collaborators come and go. Some are there the whole time. You see a whole arc. It's like, boy, that show in 2015 looked a whole lot different on a tech side and a staffing side than it does this year.
Okay, I actually wait, sorry. So I went to see the circus, right? So what you don't know about me is that I was actually an electrician on Circus Flora 1 year in like 2012, 2011, somewhere in that. You were not. I think Christine Ferriter was.
Christine Ferriter, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And I just remembered because you were talking about rigging, being a circus person, and I remember I had to harness up and like hang some of the lights high up. And I was like, I wasn't terrified, but it was like going up 20 feet was like higher than I'm normal, like used to climbing. And then I remember the circus people would just come in and literally like, I don't know, throw a rope up or somehow, but they just like climbed up, no harness, nothing. When I did that 15 years ago, there was like pars that were using lighting. And I did notice the technology is quite different. In your 11 years, I imagine you've upgraded the rig or the equipment's become better. Also, the set designer at Webster University, Catherine Stepanek, they did the set this year, I believe for the first time. So I'm just curious for you, when I go see that circus, I see, okay, there's clearly a lighting designer, there's clearly a set designer. Costumes, I don't know. Maybe there's a designer, but stuff is so specific, I don't exactly know if there is. How was working with like a new set designer this year? Because, backtrack 15 years, the set didn't look any different. I was like, it's basically the same, right? But it clearly was different, right?
That was amazing. I will answer your question. I want to go back and say you just gave to me my favorite pitch that I tell electricians when working on Flora. Here's what we're gonna do. It's gonna be a little bit buck wild. Like, let me know. Like, if you don't like something, say so, and we'll work around it. Like heights, harnesses, whatever. But at some point, Alex Valenda is gonna fly past you in the cupola or on the mast doing some other rigging, and and it's gonna blow your mind. And yeah, exactly that. Like I have been in the cupola focusing for Christine because that's actually how I got the Flora gig. Christine and I worked together at Actors Theater. And so she hired me for a couple summers, me and some other friends in Louisville to come load in the show. So I'd be in St. Louis for a week building it and then get out of there before tech rehearsals and stuff. Anyway, I'm so happy that you had the experience of probably Alex Valenda scurrying past you on the mast.
Yeah, and it's just because like we are all like, well, we should be, right? When we climb up, it's like safety. Like you don't have tools in your pocket. Everything is tied to you. And then there's OSHA, whatever that organization is, because they say things like don't climb up a 3-foot ladder and stand like without a harness or some crazy stuff like that. So that's what I'm used to because I don't want to kill people. And because I have done dangerous things. Like I have dropped gel frames from 40 feet in the air. And if it were to hit somebody's head, I might be dramatic, but that could kill somebody.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm used to. But then these circus people, and it totally makes sense when you see a trapeze act, they go up 60 feet in the air. It's just not out of body experience, but it is like, whoa.
Yeah. Then there's a whole other podcast episode on a whole other podcast to talk about like that as an industry. And it's fantastic. To put an important button on that topic. Like they are some of the safest and most competent riggers and technicians that I have ever worked with. They also exist in the same OSHA bubbles that we know. Like I just referenced Alex Valenda for now the third time. He's the head flyman at the Sarasota Opera House. He's an IATSE hand with a house position. And so many of the other riggers and trapeze artists are as well. You can see a lot of IATSE stickers and stamps on a lot of their road cases and stuff like that. Like circus people get a lot of shade from riggers and technicians that don't know circus, but they don't realize how intertwined all of that is and how knowledgeable those folks are. Anyway, to actually answer your question, working on a circus like Circus Flora, yes, there's a scenic designer. There is a costume designer. I'll touch on that. Lighting designer. There's not necessarily a sound designer, but there's a band leader, or I think her title is music director, actually, who's also composed a chunk of the music.
Wait, actually, sorry. As you can tell, I probably have ADHD. The music. So we got to go on opening night. Thank you again. And there was a live band, which I think you said is not necessarily true for the other portions of the show.
They'll be there the whole run.
Oh, they will be there. Okay. I love live music. And I think live music adds like a whole other element and dimension to an experience. So I was not expecting the live music, and it was incredible. So if anybody, this won't come out in time for people to go see Circus this year, but next year, if you're in St. Louis, go see Circus Flora because they have live music with the circus. Okay, all right, carry on.
Now we're into a whole other circus podcast, but live music is arguably a necessity of traditional circus, especially Circus Flora. It will always be live music unless there's like a very specific clown act that has to happen to a recording of Titanic or whatever. There will be live music, and it's amazing. It means the drummer can play along so that he's hitting the beats when they're catching the tricks. You can vamp if they miss the trick. It's necessary to that flow of the show. And that's why a music director and band leader are just so important to building that show. A music director who understands circuses. And that music director, Janine, has been with the show since 1988. I think she started just in the band. And Flora, it's their 40th anniversary season. Flora started in 86. So she's been there arguably the whole time.
Wow. And we've learned our ages. So we were both born in 88, right?
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Wow. Hopefully Janine doesn't listen to this and then get mad at us.
Yeah, she would not be thrilled that I brought that up. But
okay, sorry, I interrupted. You were talking about collaborating since you've been there for 11 years. Only 11 years compared to music.
Yeah, exactly. And we compared to everybody else on the show. So Cecil McKinnon, you saw as Yo-Yo the Clown, the narrator. I've maybe never worked on a Flora where we live hear the name Yo-Yo the Clown, but that is her name every year. She's the only recurring character from show to show because it's a different new story and concept every year. She is also the show director. And then her son, Jack Marsh, is the artistic director and executive director. He was 2 years old when Flora started and made his debut riding on a horse named Jack. Anyway, at this point, that creative team, Cecil and Jack build the script together. Cecil is in a unique position of being the show director and on stage the whole time. So that tech process, again, big air quotes, it is not a conventional tech process at all. Again, that's a whole other podcast. I'm skipping around, but things like costumes, right? There's not an ability to build a whole flying trapeze family's worth of costumes. So that stuff comes with the act many times for something big and specific like that. But they always travel with options, and there's other accessories and stuff you can change. So the costume designer's work for an act like that is probably just collaborating between Cecil and the act on this year your character is, they're the Balding High School debate team in today's show, or this year's show. So they might just be picking between the red option or the blue option, or do you enter with sparkly capes or not? But then Nina Reed, costume designer for longer than I've been there, does build plenty of other things. So she built a lot of the costumes that you saw, but then sometimes she built costumes for the horse act. But we did dress rehearsal, I think, in their prep costumes, and in a post-rehearsal production meeting outside of a trailer in the parking lot, we decided that actually their sparkly costumes that they owned presented them better, and we just cut those costumes. So it was a pivot from something she constructed to something that the act brought just because it was better for the show. I think designing costumes in a situation like that is hard. I believe that as a designer in the arts, you have to be ready to throw away your whole idea and start fresh. And I bet that is harder in that situation. For me, throwing something away is a cue that I spent a few minutes on, not a Argyle vest.
Yeah, I mean, because I remember, I think there was 3 people in that horse act. Maybe there was 4.
Yes.
But I'm that's a lot to build 4 costumes and then say goodbye. But cool. Since I instead talked about circus already, let's just talk about that rig because I'm curious. So I would call this tent not the biggest tent I've ever seen, right? I consider this a small circus. Then when you walk in and you see the trapeze artists, you're like, wow, they are flying. So actually this tent is actually really big. But I noticed the gear, and it was, I thought, a pretty substantial rig. Maybe you disagree, but I mean, you had at least 50 lights, and they were good moving profiles and washes.
It's a good setup. The situation has changed. The backstory, I think, is important for anybody who's designing a similar rig and wondering how did Jesse afford that rig or whatever. The Kranzberg Arts Foundation in St. Louis now owns the Big Top and operates it like a rental venue. So the Big Top is up as a feature in Grand Center in St. Louis for most of the summer. There are concerts and beer gardens and graduations, probably weddings happening in there. I think this is kind of a slow year for them. I think they're still learning how to operate that as a venue and learning what events work in there because it's a weird venue. So then there's an existing relationship with a rental house who is instrumental in laying some infrastructure. Like they already know what's happening when I call them and ask what's available or what do they need in the tent after we're done. So it's a really friendly collaboration. When I go back to load out, we're probably just going to leave some lights in the seats of the bleachers that they will then put back up on whatever truss they send to the top for the next concert season. That relationship started before the ownership of the Big Top transferred. It was a hard jump to go from like incandescent gear that Flora was piecemealing together on the dirt cheap to a real rental package from a real rental company. And so the only reason it is the way it is now is that relationship helps the rental price be cheaper, right? They're not charging me weekly for all 7 weeks that I had the gear. And I know that some of those are the same lights that I was putting in the tent 5 years ago. So they're muddy from when I first got the new lights muddy. And the rental house knows that that's coming. So they didn't bat an eye when I told them that one of the lights exploded in the most dramatic puff of smoke that I've ever seen come out of a light. I'm just I'm doing my due diligence so that you know that this happened on this date and not a month later, because I'm not going back up to get it. It's going to sit up there and be dead until we get in here with a scissor lift to bring it down.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, I appreciate that backstory because also every single rental package I've ever done ever has always been like a relationship thing where everybody feels like we're getting more gear than the money we're giving. And because I mostly do theater, that probably actually 100% has been true, that we have gotten more gear than the money is worth. So I appreciate that because I like not to insult St. Louis or the theater or the art scene at all, and not to insult Circus Flora, but I view Circus Flora, and I think this is like the charm of circus too, so I don't think this is like a bad thing, but I view it as a family-run circus. Oh, we're all getting the people together, we're bringing the acts in, and we're putting this together. And then I walk in the tent and I see this incredible lighting rig, and I'm like, wow, there must be like more money and investment in circus than I realized. Which I'm sure I'm the only person that thought that, of like, wow, look at this gear, this is amazing. And also I will say the Kranzbergs in St. Louis, they are like the arts, what's that word for arts? Not a connoisseur, but like the arts giver, patron, people. Anyway, they like are the most supportive of the arts in all of St. Louis.
The street that the Big Top is on is also named Kranzberg Way. It's Washington Boulevard, Washington Street, and then underneath Kranzberg Way.
Because I think they call it the Grand Arts District, but also you could call it the Kranzberg Arts District, and people understand what that means. So anyway, I'm just saying that to be like, they are the arts people, and they're wonderful, and I'm super happy for that rig. Okay, then the last thing about circus, and then we can move on, which is you mentioned earlier, yes, we asked Theo what his favorite part of the circus was. We get the grandparents, we ask him what he loved about the circus, and he says, the porta potties. So yeah, not that anybody needs to know this information, but there are 10 porta potties at Circus Flora, and then there's 4 like in a little air conditioned house. There's like 4 more stalls. Anyway, Theo went out during the first act, and we opened every single porta potty twice, and then we went into the building. We opened all 4 stalls twice. Anyway, so I know more about the bathrooms at Circus Flora than I think even the people that work there.
Yeah, I mean, that's the real pro tip is don't when you leave at intermission and there's a line for porta potties, walk past it to the real door and you will find likely no line and air-conditioned bathrooms.
Yes. And if there is a line for the air-conditioned bathroom, because of course we went back at intermission to go to the bathrooms again, I say wait in that line because you can go to the bathroom in the air-conditioned non-porta potty. So that's my thing is I will be late for Act 2 so that I can use the air-conditioned bathroom.
My daughter has done all of the same things over the years. I've changed her diaper on road cases under the bleachers, like the whole life.
Amazing. All right. Okay. So now let's get back to you and your career, but a creative question for you first. What is a live event that you like to experience yourself as an audience member?
The easy answer is circus, but that's just because I love circus so much. I can detach and not think about work while watching it. But puppetry, and I think circus and puppets are spiritual twins. And watching cool puppets is just the best. Give me a good fringe festival puppet show. That's great. I think the magic in puppetry is being able to see the operator. I fell in love with puppetry thanks to the Mary Shelley Electric Company here in Louisville. They're certainly not listening to this. Maybe.
I assure you they are not. They're not.
um, I lit a show for them in a cave. They did a Frankenstein called The Creature in a cave here in Louisville. And then they did it a second year in a separate venue because, surprise, caves are terrible to work in. But it was very cool to have done it. And that, like, their creature puppet took two people to operate, like kind of one to wear and be one arm, and another operator was the other arm. And that was so like larger than a person. And then all the other puppets were like 18 inches tall. It was and so like really operated by hand, very visible. That show had a live band. When done right and well, you stop watching the operators and you are solely focused on the puppet. And if those operators are able to transfer that energy and focus into the puppet, like that is where the magic is. And that is such a physical, visceral thing, which is where I think it's so similar to circus. That is not magic on YouTube. That happens live in a way that I would argue sets it distinctly apart from theater, from opera, from musicals. Like that puppetry and circus have to be live in a way that other art doesn't. All art benefits from being live, and I'm not saying theater is TV or whatever. Just it is different when it's a puppet.
Yeah, 100%. Not to get into sports here, but we once went to like a Mets game, and after the Mets game, they had fireworks, and the fireworks they put on the roof surrounding everybody, and then the fireworks go off. The fact that we were like in the middle of the fireworks and it was all going off is a completely different experience than if you're watching those fireworks on TV or something. And it's like, yeah, the colors and all that is cool, but when you're like literally like within the fire that's shooting out, the live experience is something that can be completely different.
Let's say fireworks are a form of art, right? It is different if you are there and experience them in a 3-dimensional capacity, and the sound is everywhere and you have to look up and around as opposed to on a screen.
Yeah. Okay, all right. Finances now. Are you good, bad, or neutral, or something else with money?
I've thought a lot about this since agreeing to do this podcast, 6 weeks ago, 2 months ago at least. I think objectively, I'm probably bad with money. I feel I have no regrets. I feel good about my current state, but a financial person would not look at my accounts and say that I'm good with money.
Amazing. Okay, you're 38. We're in the Midwest. I also objectively do not think I'm good with money, but also no regrets. So we're basically twins so far.
Great.
Okay, so then going before your career started, did you have good financial examples to learn from in life?
My parents are super smart, good with money, good examples there. And now that I'm a parent, I am thinking more about what those examples were and were worth. And so I had good examples, but I don't know that I learned a lot or much. Like I learned the value of saving, but not in a way that made me save, right? Like I knew that I should be, but that's a theme that like carried on into 38-year-old me. It's like you have to make enough money to feel like you should be saving. And that's, I felt that when I was 5 and had $1 to spend on candy or whatever. And I feel the same when I'm in my 30s trying to pay the mortgage. Like, what am I really going to put away in savings? I would much rather buy a pizza right now.
Amazing. So when I'm going to say at the start of your career, which I think is in Louisville with that internship, what did your finances look like at that point?
Not great. The internship was, fortunately, is a dying breed now, was an unpaid internship. I got $500 spread into 2 payments at the beginning and end of the 9 months. So obviously I was sustained by my parents during that. A privilege, a huge privilege. And I benefited immensely from that internship, but internships like that should not exist. And fortunately, that's the direction the world is moving. And then even when Actors Theater hired me on, I was making $400-ish a week, like not enough. Sure, the cost of living in Louisville is much lower than plenty of other places, but that was a seasonal contract. That was September to April. And then when I left and started freelancing, I was very pleased that I immediately was able to make more money in a year than I was when working that electrician job. But that was still, I think my first year freelancing, I made $28,000. Like, still not saving.
Yeah. I'm looking up Actors Theater of Louisville and I'm like, do they still have this internship?
No, no. Actors, that's a whole other podcast. At this point, we'll start franchise. Actors Theater of Louisville used to produce the Humana Festival of New American Plays, and that was an amazing, beautiful behemoth of a festival that ultimately relied on the free labor of the 40 interns and apprentices that worked there. I learned so much working the Humana Festival. It is, in many ways, why I'm good at certain aspects of my job. But that machine wasn't making money year over year for Actors Theater. Like, they were putting a lot of money into it just to have it. And you had 20 acting apprentices who then became some run crew and follow spot operators, and 20 interns in varying departments to support the labor making that happen. Many things have changed for Actors Theater since then. They are, I think, currently in an incredible situation. I'm a huge fan of what they are doing and the direction they're taking. It's a totally different organization. If you're listening and you used to know Actors Theater and haven't paid attention to what they're doing for a minute, check them out. They're doing good stuff. It's good people over there.
Well, I remember we did an episode with Britton Clements Cotton and Natalie Robin because they had written a book about theatrical labor, and they mentioned their biggest takeaway was the amount of unbilled labor. That's the workforce of the American theater.
I have not heard that episode, and I'm making a note to look at that and look up that book.
Because they did it like around the pandemic time is when they like surveyed people to be like, and it's something I'm mindful of because I even just now, I got to talk about this publicly, you know, but I just took a job for a theater company here in town, pays $1,500. It's in the fall. It's a musical, a huge musical. I shouldn't do it. I told the person like, I can't do it. The artistic director. I was like, it just doesn't pay enough. Nonetheless, I agreed to it because I'm going to have my student design it. And so I'm going to co-design with my student, but they're actually going to design it. And that's the only way I can rationalize this working, because it's like, okay, they're getting a professional credit. They're working with new collaborators. They're still in school and basically like still supported by their parents. So like the fact that they're not going to get paid a ton is fine. And then I don't actually have to do the work, and I can just sort of like oversee, mentor, and be at peace with that. But before, like, I've done 2 shows with them where I did get paid my $1,500. And that is, of course, why I'm not doing it again. But boiling this down, this is something that we as individuals do. We give of our labor. So me agreeing to $1,500, that is me agreeing to give away my time, effort, whatever. And that's just something we like fold into ourselves, or at least that I've done a lot over my life and my career. So I'm just saying it out loud because we can't change the system, right? Blah, blah, blah. Because also, this is a hot take. I think unpaid internships are fine if you're in a society that treats everybody, you know, nicely. Like
That's
if
huge.
we pay a living, if we
Yeah.
paid a living wage, if we had sort of like health insurance or like safety nets of things, then I think unpaid internship is totally fine.
Yeah, if the support structures exist without like demeaning people, like if it was socially acceptable to be accepting help from the government to attend a unpaid internship, then like great. But society likes to frown on people that use food stamps or whatever, and you wouldn't publicly say, "I'm accepting food stamps to attend this internship."
Yeah.
But you, I'm struggling to rewind 30 seconds because you said something that I was going to say. Oh, we fold in all of that extra stuff. Like we say yes to the gig and then we make it work. But you articulated kind of well there why I don't always feel comfortable talking about rates for certain gigs. And that is because I'm happy to share personally. Like I'm in a conversation with a peer, I will tell you what I made on that gig because in that conversation I can give all of the context and nuance and backstory of why does that high or that low or what I did or didn't do with that. But it's those weirdo gigs where like maybe I'm the designer and the programmer and the rigger and all of that, where like I don't want somebody else to see that the lighting design fee for that gig was X rate, because that is not the story. I feel really strongly that we should be sharing rates. We should be talking about this because like knowledge is power, and we should help. When we share, we help each other get more gigs and make enough money and be able to pay the bills. But I think we're also helping those organizations learn like this is actually what it's going to cost if you want a professional lighting designer or theatrical professional of any kind. But if I just say those numbers out loud on the street or on a podcast, that's a grenade that I'm throwing that I don't know about. I don't know where it's going. I don't know what grenade I've thrown. I don't know whose salary is going to suddenly feel incredibly insulting. I want them to know, but I want them to have the grenade to throw, not just have it thrown by me.
Yeah. And actually, let's give context. When I said $1,500, somebody might have been listening and thinking like, oh, that's not a bad fee for a huge musical. And that's why I said huge musical, so that people could understand like this is going to be an involved tech and there's other people, there's live music, there's all these other components that have to work together. And you can't just sort of like do lights up, lights down. Like you have to work with everybody. So it's going to be time and energy. The other thing, no programmer. So we have to program the show ourselves. No production electrician. Now there's a house venue and they will do some things, but it's minimal. Like they, you have to like work within the rep plot. You have to make a lot of decisions like about your design of like, we don't have electricians. So let me also throw that $1,500 is a lot more work than if it was a fully supported, like if I went down to Alabama Shakespeare Festival and they pay more than $1,500. They're part of LORT, so you're on a LORT contract minimum at least, which would roughly be a little over $3,000 for like the smallest venue. But if you were going to go down to Alabama Shakespeare Festival where you're fully supported with a production electrician and resources and you can do all, then a number like $1,500, it could be rationalized because you're like, oh, I'm only going to be there for a short period of time. So yeah, I agree. These conversations, there's so much context to them. You can't have like a one-off response, or you have to be careful about just throwing this out because you're going to get two reactions. One is going to be like, oh my gosh, I wouldn't even get out of bed for that amount of money. Or you're going to have somebody else be like, oh, that's actually a really good fee. I've never even been paid that much.
Yeah, and theater, like we work in an industry that people do for fun. So like this is a hobby for so many people, and it's hard to articulate that spectrum, right? Like I do not as much now, but like my career is definitely built on working with what I call semi-professional companies, right? Those community theater companies that have maybe a paid artistic director and they pay designers, and then actors and performers are getting a stipend that is not worth their time. Like they're doing that for free. And those rates are like $750. And that's been true for years. And at least this economy, I mean Louisville, in this market. How do you value that time when so many of the people involved are doing it for the fun of finally getting to do cabaret or whatever the thing? And maybe that production needs professional designers and stuff to be able to sell enough tickets for it to do well and be sustaining. I'm still going to take those gigs, and objectively, I have so many friends in the industry that would say, "Why are you doing that for $750?" Like, well, the director spoke at my wedding, and I was free that week. Like, and it's a funny show, and I'm not going to convince them to raise the rate just because they should, because I don't think they should, if that's the market they're in.
Yeah, and like my $1,500 gig, I'm in conversation with the other designers because that's who I am and what I do. They have other allegiances to the company, right? And I'm like new on the scene to St. Louis, and I got involved because I'm like, oh, I'm here, I want to do some local stuff. But now I'm realizing, oh, this is a terrible gig. That's not insulting. They do amazing work. And I want to say also something else is they hire equity actors. And so those, I don't exactly know what the minimum for equity is, but let's say it's $800 a week. So their actors are getting $800 a week times 6 weeks or whatever it is. And I imagine that the artistic staff is like, oh, well, designers, they'll get $1,500 because they're basically putting in 2 weeks. Like that's how they view it. I would have to sit them down and be like, no, I don't just generate, like I have to generate a light plot. I have to generate a cue sheet. I have to put weeks and weeks of like prep into this that you don't see. So then that boils down into my $1,500. And now I don't have a point because I got distracted but because I just do want to credit them for paying the equity actors, because I think that's important. I think that's fantastic. And I guess I wish there was a way to like have USA 829 be like, okay, like compare the rates to that, to let us know that also like us designers are people too. and while you may only see us in tech for a week or two, we're working beyond that.
I always want people to be picturing the amount of time that goes into something, but thinking about those like $750 semi-professional gigs, lighting designer, for example, on that, like there might be a rep plot in there. Like it might not be weeks of work before I'm in there, and often it's not. It's very I can skate through, but that is occupying a week of my time, and I can't do that in the evenings like the actors can. So that I cannot really have a full-time job while doing that. Like I've got to be in there loading in all day Monday or whatever it is in that venue, and then fumbling through a Monday rehearsal, queuing all day Tuesday. So like that occupies a week. And so then your rate minimum, if you're paying somebody, has to be what you think that person's weekly salary is. You've occupied a week of their time, regardless. So if you think that person does or should make $50,000 a year, then that rate should be $1,000 minimum. Now it sounds like I'm blasting people paying $750. I'm not. I'm just saying we need to be thinking about, do you think there should be professional freelance lighting designers in your community? Then somebody needs to be paying them a weekly rate that is equal to 1/52nd of what you think they should make in a year.
I think that's great, because that's also like a similar thing. Like people have talked about that on the show before, which is like, what is the living wage for your area? Break that down into, again, like you said, how many weeks are you on that project? So if the project is 2 or 3 weeks, like say it's 2 weeks of tech and then 1 week of prep, that should be a 3-week salary. So whatever the living wage is in that area, like that's really what it should be. And if it's less than that, like, and I've done that actually, because when I worked at Tent Theater in Springfield, Missouri, I sort of did that. I was like, can I have more money? But here's why. like I'm a human being, and and this is like the livable wage, and like for the amount of time I'm putting in, it's a similar thing. And I also, while we're on this topic, I want to mention Elsa Hiltner. So elsahiltner.com. I'll put that link in the show notes. But she maintains this Google Doc that is called the Theatrical Designer Pay Resource. Okay, guilty as charged, everyone. This is like the 10th time I brought it up on the show. I have not gone to this resource and put in my wages.
That tab has sat open in my Chrome browser for like 4 months. It's not there right now. Like I've been meaning to do it for so long.
I am going to do it because I keep track of my taxes. So I know what I've been paid on gigs, and I remember them well enough, because something that it does is, one, it says like, what state are you in, right? Then what city, what company, and it's all anonymous, but like, you know, I could look up the lighting designer of so-and-so if I really cared to, right? So it's not like 1,000% anonymous, like AI could figure it out. But anyway, it says like, what were you paid? And then it has a very important like notes section, which is like the context of, did you have a production electrician? Did you have a programmer? Did you? So it provides a lot of that context that we as the workers know and understand, of like, oh, it's a really good rate, but look what I'm going to have to deal with, or something like that, or vice versa. And the thing that I use it for the most is just going and saying, so like my $1,500 gig, right? Of course I went and I believe somebody had put it in, like from the costuming department or something. And so I looked and I saw like 1,500. I was like, okay, so that is their rate. Like, which the artistic director told me, because again, I ask these questions, baby. I say like, am I getting paid the same as all the other designers? And they say yes. And so I trust but verify sort of situation. So I go to Elsa Hiltner's, spreadsheet. So everybody listening, go to the show notes, go to this link and put in your pay information, because it is so important to like provide the context. And it's a way that we cannot like you're saying, Jesse, throw out the grenade. This is a very calm, cool, just data sort of situation. So no one can get mad, and there's no comment section. So somebody can't say like, Ethan, why are you working for that? Like, you should not be doing that. Or the $750 gig rate that you're talking about. Because I have had this money conversation with the artistic director. His response, and I don't blame him, right? Like, he has to make the money work, right? And their annual budget is like $1 million, which sounds like a lot, right? But then they do like 6 shows or something. So the amount of shows they're doing for that money is actually quite impressive and very like good on them. So again, I'm proud of the work they're doing. I think they're doing incredible work. But there is a reality of, you are exploiting your designers, because they are all putting in more time than the 1,500 they're getting. And again, we all have reasons for it. But anyway, this artistic director has said to me, like, this is St. Louis. Like, that's what it takes. And he's also, I consider he's said quite a he or she, but he has said very insulting things about designers and to designers. And again, I'm putting myself in the way of these conversations. Like, I'm going after them because nobody else has these conversations. So I'm like, well, if I'm not going to do it, then like no one's going to do it. But he has said, like, if you want to be a designer in St. Louis, you have to either not work here or you have to have a day job. And so he views me as, oh, you now have a Webster University job, which I didn't have when I first worked for them. But he's like, you work at Webster, therefore I don't have to pay you like an actual rate because you can work for this low money because you have your day job. And I'm not saying that his point of view is good, bad, incorrect, fact, or not fact. I'm just saying it is a realistic view from other people. And so it would boil back to what you were saying. Like, if you think the person should get paid their $1,000 a week, this person does not think that. and they're not wrong from their point of view.
Yeah, that's one of those facts that I wish like only one side of the equation saw. I wish that the organizations did not have the perspective of we can pay less because designers in town are likely to have a full-time job. They're likely to have a place that they source their health insurance, so we don't have to pay as much. I wish that was a thing that we knew, that we shared gig to gig. Like, you're right, that doesn't pay enough, but I take it because I get my health insurance from my spouse or whatever.
Yeah. Okay, Jesse, all these tangents. Back to you. On a daily basis, do you think or worry about money?
I definitely think about money daily. I don't think I worry about money, but I am maybe an anomaly with how unstressed money makes me. I mean, taxes and stuff stress me out, but like I carry some credit card debt, and that does not weigh on my soul in the least. I'll solve that problem. So I think about money daily. Using apps like Monarch mean that I have a one-click way to think about money every day. But that is a daily app. Think about it, not a burden of dread. Think about it.
Yeah. Okay. So Monarch, I believe, had a different name at some point.
That's possible. I found it when Mint died.
Yes, Mint.
Yeah, Mint died, and I tried various other things. Mint became Credit Karma, and they said it would be the same, and it was not.
No.
If you're out there and you miss Mint, look up Monarch. It's not free, which is a huge bummer, but no regrets. It's everything I wanted.
But it's a website / app that you like put in all your banking information and accounts, and then it just gives you a snapshot of where you exist in financial life.
Yeah, and it tries to help you budget. It'll auto categorize things. It just told me I'm $4 over my haircut budget for the month. So it tries to do things like that. But mostly, I want the one-click place that I can see. I didn't forget to pay the credit card bill. That's how much is in the checking account. Like, I don't want to be sourcing all of those things from separate places for my sanity.
Yeah. One day, I'll get onto Monarch, but I have this weird thing where I don't like to pay for things.
Yeah, it's a huge bummer to pay for it, and so like I really hesitate to advocate for it. But
no, but here's an argument for it though, because Amy Deluxe, I believe, listens to the show, etc., and has been on before, and she, I believe, uses it, and she's like, Ethan, you got to use it because again, there's no other app or whatever that does that for people, so like it's your choice. Something we learned in the 6 years of the show, I learned that tracking your net worth is like something that people who are good with finances do. Some of my siblings, some people in my life are really good about tracking their net worth. And I used to be for like the first 3 years of the show. But I track it by because I don't agree how Monarch does it. In my brain, like if I have a mortgage right, that counts as debt to me, but they don't see it that way necessarily. So I'm like, nay. I need to
Yeah, I don't like that my net worth is referencing Zillow to see what my house is worth. And no.
Exactly. So I track it just in a Google sheet where I'm like, okay, this is what's in the bank accounts. This is like how much is on the car payment. And then that gives me what I consider my net worth number that the bank would maybe disagree with. But I'm fighting for Monarch here because that spreadsheet, which takes all of 5 minutes to update, I have not updated it for 2 years. So I have no idea what my net worth is. So anyway, I'm just saying the apps, I should pay for it. Okay, so you've mentioned a little bit of credit card debt that doesn't keep you up at night. You mentioned a mortgage. Do you have any other debt, like student loan debt or anything like that?
I'm lucky to not have any student loan debt. I have a car payment. We have 2 cars. Fortunately, 1 car payment. Hopefully, we keep that cycle. Only 1 car payment at a time. But that's it. Mortgage, car, no student loans. Mortgage, car, credit card, no student loans. Some of the way that my credit card debt doesn't weigh me down, so I've had some forever. Credit cards are evil, but they give you flexibility in a way that credit card debt exists on me in a way that I feel like a student loan does. They have that being able to go into debt on a credit card has given me opportunities that were just net beneficial to my life. There's not any specific, I'm not saying like that trip I put all on a credit card and it got me a gig. Like, that's not what I'm saying. I just mean the way that I've lived my life has accumulated some credit card debt, and I have zero regrets about it because I think that all of it has been beneficial. And I'm happy to pay the interest on the lunch I had with those friends that resulted in other good life things, be it work or whatever.
Mm-hmm. You've mentioned Monarch. Do you or have you ever used a budget?
I for a long time, actually meeting you and agreeing to do this podcast re-sparked this in my head. I used to do Google Drive, or Google has a budget spreadsheet form, and I used to do one of those for every calendar year, but retroactively. I was basically using Mint to tell me how much I spent on groceries every month, and then dumping that into the spreadsheet so that I had a cleaner picture. Because I don't need every little purchase to go into that spreadsheet, but I wanted a like non-app version to see the trends or whatever. I don't. So I'm a retroactive budgeter. I'm not in the grocery store thinking like how much do I have left for the month on groceries, but I am looking after the fact and thinking like, July was rough for groceries. Let's do better in August.
All right, what is a really good financial thing that you have done in your life that you think other people could do or learn from, or you could say, maybe you should do that?
I feel lucky. So this is not a thing that everybody can do. I feel lucky that we bought a house when we did. Not everybody can or wants to or whatever. And my real thought there is we found a mortgage through a local credit union that was a first-time homebuyer mortgage situation. They held our hands through the process. There was zero down payment. And like, we didn't have down payment money saved like that. We work in the arts. And like, that's my pro tip is like, you don't have to save a down payment to buy a house is a misconception that I feel like I need to yell from the rooftops to everyone.
And I don't know anything about buying houses, but I do think there is, like, somehow just from like listening, I do think there is something. I don't know if it was the program that you were involved in, but there is some sort of program for first-time home buyers that is like a federal program, and it's like you have to put 3.5% down or like a very, very low down payment. I do agree that if you like want home ownership or you think that's something you want, look into it, like whether you think you can or not.
Yeah, the advice is look into it, get off the couch, like stop, because also just like peace of mind and like, I think it's financial too. Like I'm paying so much money on this house. I'm not saying buy a house, you'll save money because you're, not paying rent. There's literal holes in my ceiling that I haven't paid to fix yet or fix myself because I'm busy.
Jesse just panned up to his ceiling that has a bunch of holes in it. That was pretty amazing.
The house is more than 100 years old. It needs a full rewiring. We rewired the one circuit that almost caught on fire, and that circuit seems to have touched every room in the house. So now there's just holes everywhere. And a thing on my literal to-do list, is to get more quotes to finish this. Anyway, what I was saying was, I can't argue for financial stability in owning a home because you're going to be dealing with things like rewiring the house and getting a new roof and whatever. What I still feel the breath of relief from, and we've owned this home since 2018, so that place is like pre-pandemic. That's why it was a better time to buy a house, etc. I don't feel the dread of the lease is going to end. What are we doing? Where are we going? When we bought the house, I felt the cloud lift of, and I didn't realize it was there, because I was always looking like, oh, there's a for rent sign. Is that better? How much is that place? Like that murmur existed in my brain for however long I've been paying rent. The relief of that is great. Maybe not everybody's like me, but I haven't looked at Craigslist since 2018. And I used to just like check every once in a while to see what apartments were out there.
Yeah, and I also like, we just finished our 2 years of home ownership, but before that we're renting for 10, 15 years, whatever it was. And I will say I'm not on board with home ownership yet, because like even just this week, we had to pay $1,000 for a termite installation thing. That and pest control are going to be $75 a month for the rest of time, like until we die. So it's like, that's $75 on top of the mortgage, plus the $1,000 of like the initial installation. And then Nicole, like, so we have all wooden floors that creak or whatever. My solution has been I threw a bunch of rugs down, but they're just like hodgepodge of rugs. And Nicole's like, we should get carpeting in the upstairs so that way we're not like when we're trying to sneak out of Theo's room after bedtime, he doesn't wake up again because we creaked the floorboard. And I'm like, I'm all for it. But if I don't know what carpeting costs, but if we just got the upper floor, I'm like $7,000 at least, right? And so I'm like, I'm happy that we own the home. I'm happy we're paying it off. But like, it just hurts me to put so much money into the house. Anyway. I'm like, I don't know if I am for home ownership yet or not.
The thing I like about home ownership is that if you're like me, I guess, like live in it as though you're going to live here forever, and then you're just so much happier with everything you do for it. I'm not hemming and hawing about the price of rewiring the house. I mean, I can't afford it, so I am hemming and hawing, but like, it's got to get done because this house is 100 years old and I would love to be a good steward of its next 100 years. Like, get it done.
That is true. There is something about, yeah, it's yours. Like you own it, whatever that means, or you're stewarding it for the time being.
And maybe that's, a friend of mine used this phrase once, contractor crunchy. I was describing how I'm like, kind of a granola crunchy like hippie nerd, but about like the wrong things. Like I'm going to reuse this piece of wood that is original to the house over here in this other part of the house, and like that I get immense satisfaction out of that.
That's awesome. Okay, all right. So your good piece of financial advice is not necessarily to buy a home or go back in time and buy a home, but if you're thinking about it, look into it.
It's more accessible than you think is the takeaway. And open a Roth IRA.
Absolutely. I love that. Okay. The opposite of good financial thing you've done. What is something bad financially that you have done that you would advise people don't do this?
Like being aware of lifestyle creep is the thing, but I don't like lifestyle creep as a concept. I think the answer is just like buy less Jimmy Johns. If I were to give myself advice in any genre, that's the wrong word, but in any lane of life, if I could talk to my past self, the advice is some form of do the push-ups. Just do the push-ups, make the peanut butter and jelly sandwich instead of buying lunch or whatever. Lifestyle creep always sounds like you shouldn't be buying that cup of coffee, and I strongly believe that you should live your life. You should enjoy the gig. You're on a first time out of town gig to Portland, like walk from the hotel to the coffee shop for your breakfast. Like do that. Just don't do it every morning or whatever, right? Like live your life. You're only going to have that first time out of town gig once. Don't worry about, I mean, you should worry a little bit, but live your life. Spend some money. Just make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich a little bit more often. Talk about credit card debt. Like that is harder to chip down because of the amount of times that I have just like not packed a lunch. Like that's what it comes down to. It's not that I went to Paris and didn't have a plan for how to pay for it. I've never been to Paris.
I also think it's hilarious. You're like, eat less Jimmy John's. And when I think Jimmy John's, I think, okay, if I want a not expensive sandwich, let me go over to Jimmy John's. And also, actually, case for home ownership, I will say suburbs. So Nicole and I live 7-minute drive from the highway, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but that's just to get to the highway. That's 15-minute round trip, right? So then if you want to go get something to eat, that's at least 15 minutes plus more time. And so we actually, in 2 years since we've moved into suburbs, we actually rarely eat out. And yes, we have a toddler and we don't like going in public to eat out, like with said toddler. So that's part of it. But here we are like 2 years on and we like rarely eat out, which again, that amount of money pales in comparison, I think, to the mortgage. But, you know, all right. So point for home ownership. All right, Jesse, I think we've answered this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway, which is how do you get work? Like, how do you find jobs?
I mean, the elephant in the room to my answer is that I'm the lighting director and resident designer for the Louisville Ballet. But that is a gig that I backed into. Like, I just slowly did more and more for them. And then eventually I was like, hey, a lot of this stuff is not independent contractor stuff. Like, it's time to figure out, like, if I have to come to staff meetings, let's put me on a W-2. So at this point with them, if we do a show, I'm either designing it or I am facilitating somebody else's design. And that's a salary that I'm lucky to have. the rest of the work, and they let me leave and do other things because I backed it. Like Louisville Ballet is not big enough to have a full-time lighting director, so they can handle it if I leave to go do an opera or something. And at this point, I'm super lucky that the arts organizations here in town tend to just reach out and say, here's our upcoming season. What are you available for? And that's really amazing. It's amazing in a way where I'm hesitant to say that to other professionals because what a gold mine. It's incredible. I have fallen in love with Louisville and specifically the size of Louisville. All of our arts organizations seem to punch above their weight and above the size of the city. And being able to work with Kentucky Opera and the Louisville Ballet and Kentucky Shakespeare and specifically opera and ballet, art forms that I know nothing about and got into because I was a lighting designer and they needed a lighting designer. And if I'm going to do everything at the ballet for a while, I'm just like checking off the boxes of ballet canon pieces. Like I am learning about an art form. And then same at the opera, but at a slower pace because I'm not doing literally everything for them. But like if I were to swipe on my computer right now, there's an open plot for Barbara of Seville for the opera. And I've never done a Barbara of Seville before. Like it's fantastic to just have that offer and a relationship where I know that like next season there'll be some other opera standard that I can learn about and check off. Last year I did my first La Traviata. It was great. I love that show now. And same with ballet, being able to do Serenade and Cinderella and work through all of those big works. Like that's amazing. Anyway, that's network. Network is the answer to how I get jobs. And I think I can trace every gig. Like I can draw the line, like how it is all Amy Attaway's fault. Like I can draw everything back to one person in that network. And that's really fun.
Yeah. No, okay. So I did that for like a collaboration class. I did that in my life and I drew a line. And I have a friend who's been on the show 6 years ago, Taylor Ferrera, and they were like instrumental. I worked with them here and then they said, oh, can you do this? So much of my work came from them. If anyone listening is bored and they want to like just look at your own career, look at like the top 5 shows you've done every year and then see if there's a connecting line because I bet you'll find one.
Yeah. And then there, you might find a gap and then you can infer like, oh, before I got this other gig, I had this other large outlying thing on my resume. For me, that's Circus Flora. There's not a linear path between the Circus Flora gig and the ballet gig, but I know that when the ballet first hired me and they were like, that artistic director was trying to figure out if this local weirdo guy was worth it, that was the thing on my resume that was not a known local small theater company name. That is the reason that I got that phone call. Because he wasn't calling the other local designers who had done all the other local theater here in town. I was a local designer who had also done some notable, researchable thing. He could look up Circus Flora and see what it was. And it wasn't just a Pirates of Penzance or something on my, that's a weird title to throw in there as a random show. But it wasn't, just another show on a list of shows. It was a whole other entity that stood out. So that's a very specific example. But I think if you're drawing the path and you find a gap, you can probably figure out where that line can connect.
100%. All right. So how did you get your first industry job and how much did it pay? And let's leave off the internship from actors because we already talked about that.
I'm going to say to connect the dots and then leave it off. The internship did hire me on for the next couple seasons and that pay was like $400 a week for 9 months a year. First lighting design gig was probably not a living wage. Like I want to say like $200 as a freelancer. First gig that I got a show for Stage One Family Theater, a local children's theater in town. And I got that offer before I left the job at Actors Theater. And so my saying yes was, I was like, I'm maybe not coming back to Actors Theater. Like I'm almost ready to say yes. The timing of this offer is great because it helps solidify that there is a path here. And that fee was $1,500, which was a mind-blowing amount of money to a young freelancer. Oh, no, it was $1,200. Sorry, it was $1,200. And I know that because I remember when Stage One bumped their designer rates up to $1,500, where they have been since.
Yeah, I remember. So I get $60,000 to teach at Webster. And I remember Jane Cox was like, I interviewed her while I was considering whether I was going to take that job or not. And she was just like, wow, $60,000. That's what I got paid 15 years ago when I was teaching or something. And it's weird how inflation and time and money change and don't change. Okay. And then is there a recent gig that you're comfortable sharing of how you got that job and then how much it paid you?
Yeah. Just did Songbird just in February. It feels like it just happened. Did Songbird with Kentucky Opera, and I believe that fee was $3,200. And that is like on par with 829 recommended rates and everything. I am not a member of 829 for lack of time, but I referenced it, so now I need to clarify. I don't want to take any credit that it's not there. Someday.
No, but that's what 829's purpose is to provide everybody, whether they're in or not in the union, some sort of like base level something. Even if you're not a member, you can reference that info. And if you can't find it, just find somebody who's in 829 to find it for you.
Yeah, it does take some work as a non-member to find those rate sheets, which is why they're just open in a tab on my phone all the time.
Yeah. Well, because I'm always like, there's a lot of rate sheets too. So even if you are a member, you have to like figure out which one exactly is this. But I also am like, oh yeah, just look it up on the website. And then I realize that non-members can't always get into the portal. And that's why I say just phone your friend Ethan or somebody and be like, hey, can you find this rate sheet for me or something?
And it's fascinating because I work in opera and dance and theater, like being able to look at all three of them and compare them and wonder why they are different. I have my own theories about why pay scale is different in there, and I just opened the door to that segue and dumped myself through it. In my zeitgeist, ballet pays the most, opera slightly less, and then theater below that. And my theory, even if everybody's paying living wage, like that's how it stacks for me and how I've seen it in the world. And my theory is about amount of tech time that you have, and not even all those industries don't always use phrase tech even, but the amount of time you have in the theater and how much you have to get it right on the first crack. And in ballet, there is not time for a change. You have to come in knowing what you're doing. You are building it. You are done. Dancers are on stage. You have zero queuing time. I'm exaggerating, but for the purposes of the scale. Opera, you're likely to have much more queuing time. There's some flexibility. You can work together with the director. You might have a couple days on the schedule that you could use just sitting at the tech table together if you wanted. And so there's time to work your way through a choice or come back from a mistake, or time to change the gel color or whatever. And then theater, you have even more time with the full team in a very traditional tech working through like, is this the sunrise that is best for this moment? And we can all talk about it and work through it. And it makes it sound like theater takes more time. But I think it's just the way that we create and the pressure there is to be right on day one, when lighting, you can't share that with anyone else. I know previs and stuff works, but it's not the same. You have to have a relationship with the choreographer and ballet where they know or trust that what you're putting up day one is good, or it's going to be good by Friday night or whatever. And that's my weirdo niche theory on that pay disparity is the pressure to get it right from the beginning versus the time you have to work through it as a group.
That is interesting. I haven't really done much dance and or opera, because I actually just assumed opera paid the most, but I'm hearing that's not entirely true.
Maybe it does if you just like zoom out and look at companies, but at least in my bubble, that's the way it stacks.
No, I've also like never compared the rates or anything. So I've never heard that hot take, but also it totally tracks, and that logic is very solid. And going back to the 1,500 gig that I am grumpy about, I will say that company condenses their tech into like 3 days. So like, and I think they're aware of, okay, let's condense it so that way everybody can rationalize why they're, taking up their time.
And I hear 3 days of tech from a ballet world, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that sounds lovely.
That's crazy, right? Okay, so do you work with assistants and or do you work with fellow designers? And in that, the real question is, do you ever discuss pay with them ahead of time or help them negotiate? Or do you ever talk about that with people?
I have never been in a position to have an assistant that where I was not involved in the pay. And the times that I have had an assistant, it is directly me negotiating, like either because I'm at the ballet putting it into the budget, like we need this on this show, or it's me negotiating like, I think you personally will benefit from being here. I can only give you this, and it's coming out of my pocket. But are you on board? Like, broad strokes answer no, but I am involved anytime that I've had any level of an assistant.
Got it. Okay, cool. Do you have an entity, a corporation, or are you a sole proprietor freelancer?
I do not. I'm complete sole proprietor. I probably should have some level of entity just for the small amount of gear that I own and sometimes rent out and stuff. But that's just a lot of work. And I don't really want to make a business of renting out stuff. I just want to chip away at the credit card debt that exists in some small part because of buying a programming wing and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay, this is a tangent, but have you ever looked into getting insurance for your gear? Like, is that something you've looked into?
No. When I start to do that research, I flatline and I don't want to.
Okay, so we have an episode on it talking about insurance, and I just wonder if you could get I think it's Inland Marine is the insurance name that comes to mind for equipment. I wonder if you could get a policy just as an individual on your equipment.
That's where my research has stopped. Is like, I think maybe I need AlFord Productions to be the entity to have insurance.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, okay. So you look into it. You let us know, or not.
And if anyone listening has the one email answer, don't do work for me. But if you know the answer, shoot me an email.
Yeah, if you know the answer. Yeah, because in my life, like I had a corporation for like 10 years because I was trying to get a gig in which I needed to like for a school system. Anyway, didn't get the gig. Hung on to the LLC for 10, 15 years, and finally weight lifted off my shoulder like 3 years ago, closed it down. Because I realized that everything I wanted to do with the entity, aside from like insurance, like if Disney were to hire me, right, they would want me to have a corporation, in which case I would open one up and do whatever I needed to do with insurance and all that. But for my life, anytime I've needed to do something, I could do it as an individual sole proprietor freelancer, aka just myself. I could do it that way just as well as I could do it with a corporation. So that's all. That's my little soapbox of like, don't just open up a corporation because you think you need one for insurance or something. Like, see if you can do the thing first, and then if you have to open up the entity, then do it. Okay, so W-2 income, where the employer takes your taxes out for you, versus 1099 freelancer income. In your 12-month life as a designer, what percentage of each of those are you getting?
Because of the ballet salary, that is about 2/3, and then another third is the rest of freelance full 1099 contracts. I don't think every once in a while I get a freelance contract that happens to be on a W-2, but that is rare. So I do think it's about 2/3 W-2 and 1/3 1099.
That sounds great to me. And I think it's actually, again, we're twins because now I'm teaching at Webster, and depending on how much freelance income I make, but I think I'm going to be at roughly like 2/3 will be the Webster income, and then the other third will be my random freelancing things.
Yeah, it feels like it's enough to be worth treating all my taxes and stuff like I'm a full freelancer, like I'm doing all of the work of deductions and all of that. But because if I had one 1099 gig, then I wouldn't do that. I would just, TurboTax it and be done. But yeah, it's enough to be.
And there's also a thing with taxes where I always say, like, if you're freelancing, you don't want to deduct everything so that you're making zero money, like at tax time on paper. However, let me say that, like, in my life now that I have 2/3 of my income, I am paying taxes on. I'm actually fully comfortable in like putting enough deductions so that it looks like I made zero. Anyway, so I just want to throw that caveat to something I've said several times of like, don't get your income down to zero. But if you're already paying income on or taxes on 2/3 of it.
It wasn't that long ago. When did I become a full employee? Summer of 2023. So I guess it's been 3 years now that I've been W-2. But before then, I was lucky enough to have like a season-long contract. And that was incredible and huge and was full 1099. I've never seen a contract that big. Maybe per show. None of that has been my biggest paycheck at all. But like, having all of that in one contract was amazing, and felt really great as a freelancer to have the guaranteed, I'm getting a $4,000 check every month for 10 months. That is the real number. That was a $40,000 contract. It was fantastic. 10 months. And then when I became W-2 and that pivoted into a full annual salary and taxes started getting taken out of it, that was within a couple months of when I like bought my truck with the car loan. We're paying daycare. Like I immediately went from having $4,000 every month to solve problems with to then not having any money. And like zoomed out 3 years later, of course everything is better. But like that, it felt like I was immediately poor, not actually poor, but cash poor. That huge cash flow problems just from that jump. Because every month I was like, cool, $4,000. Maybe some of it's going to savings, maybe or this I'm solving a hole in the ceiling this month. But then and now it's net better. But
And I think that's a debate because I love W-2 income. I'm like, yes, take the taxes out. Don't let me have to worry about it. But I sort of feel like I'm in a minority in that because a lot of people love getting, again, your $4,000 chunk in which you can divide up and then pay the taxes when you're ready or tax time or whatever. But you have that money now until Uncle Sam comes and takes it. I am like, not that, again, I don't consider myself good with money. So I'm like, take the money now. I know everyone says that's a bad idea. I can invest that money wisely and make more money or deductions or whatever. But I appreciate having other people take the money out and only giving me what I consider truly mine. Like, give me what is actually mine.
I am fully with you unless I am making more than enough money, right? Like even with a super lucky luxurious contract like that one, I did not feel like I was making enough money to be putting into retirement and saving to pay those taxes later. Like the number of times that I have paid a good chunk of my taxes on a credit card and solved that problem over the next few months is all of them. Like that's not necessarily the whole amount every time, but like I am not saving enough for tax time. We can talk about lifestyle creep and homeownership and everything. Like I could live in a different place and save more money, but I would argue that most of us are just not making enough money in this industry to be making those good habits and good choices.
Correct. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there, which is like a topic that just every episode sort of is like, it's not that theater people are bad with money. It's just we're in an industry where very often we're not getting it. Because like once you have it, it's not that you're suddenly good with money. It's that you are making a livable, thriving wage, in which case you're able to just live freely a little bit more.
Right. Yeah. My car payment is not hard because I got a sports car. I got a pickup truck so I can do more freelance stuff like that.
Yeah. That $4,000 number you're talking about, that was pre-tax, right? So this is just everyone's reminder, if you're new on the scene here, that 1099 income, you only get to keep 2/3 of it when it all is all said and done. So if we take $300 of every $4,000, if we take $1,200 out of your $4,000, that is taxes at the end of the year. That boils it down to $2,800, right? So when you get that $4,000, you're only the only part that you actually get to keep when all is said and done is the $2,800, because when tax time rolls around, you have to pay 30% of that roughly to Uncle Sam. So you've probably spent the $4,000 at that point, but when it comes to tax time, government's like, hey, you owe us $1,200, and then you have to come up with it like that. So anyway,
your back of the napkin math is spot on with what became my biweekly paycheck. Like you were within $4.
Amazing. So, okay, all right. Do you file your own taxes?
No, Carly Does Books is the name of her business. I found her when I lost another tax person and sent up a Hail Mary on Facebook and said, please help me. Who does your taxes? And she, I think she's now based out of Chicago. I've never met her in person, but picked her immediately because I think I have this right, that she used to be an actor for like children's theater stuff. Like she knows the industry and then went into bookkeeping, and it's been great.
Amazing. Awesome. Do you have a retirement plan? And if so, what does it look like? Like, what are all the pieces of it? And I can ask you this list if you want to say yes, no.
Oh, no, it's because it's simple and not enough. I have a Roth IRA that is mostly just into the Vanguard target retirement, whenever I chose to retire. We'll see. And then through the ballet, I have whatever the nonprofit 401b or 403b. I don't know. There's no matching gift or anything. It's just a 401 thing that I have access to through them. And nothing has enough in it. My retirement plan is to make more money soon.
So when you log in and it says you need to save more money for retirement.
I don't want to look at those retirement tools and plans. I know that I need more in there, and I'll solve that when I'm not paying for daycare, which is in like a month.
Really? Congratulations.
Thanks.
I'm looking. Nicole and I have been debating. Okay, sorry. Side tangent for parenting. Theo's 3. He has another 2, maybe 3 years left in daycare. Nicole makes me call it school. So if Nicole's listening, school, we put him in school, not daycare. Where he goes, they have this like grade school that I think goes up to 8th grade. Anyway, we're in an affluent area of Missouri, and we have the best schools, public schools in Missouri. And so I'm like, yes, let's get him into those public schools. But unfortunately, we're in love with this school, and they have this not public option to like go up to 8th grade. And so we've been like, we're going to go public school, like looking forward to that. And now Nicole's been like, talk to some other parents, and they're just like, it's literally the best school ever in the whole world. So now I'm like, do I have to pay until 8th grade to like keep him in? Anyway, so congratulations to you for 1 month left of daycare cost.
Thank you. It is basically the mortgage. It is in fact mortgage plus utilities. That daycare is equal to the amount of money that I auto deposit into the account that gets mortgage and electricity and water and gas taken out of.
Amazing. Oh, I'm so happy for you. I'm sure other expenses will jump up, but
oh yeah, there's still a hole in the ceiling, but yeah.
I also do want to say, because I tangent for the Roth IRA, because you mentioned it earlier very quickly as like a really good financial thing to do. And anybody who's listened to the show long enough knows that I am in love with the Roth IRA. And the reason being, if you want to save for your own retirement really quickly, the fastest, easiest thing you can do is open up an IRA. There's traditional and there's Roth. Forget the word traditional. Get it away from us, Satan. We love the Roth. And the reason being, the Roth, you pay the taxes now, which is painful, right? But in retirement, you get to pull out that money tax-free. So you like do not have to worry about the taxes. So in my thought is, when everybody first starts saving for retirement, in theory, you're in a lower tax bracket. So use the Roth, pay your lower tax bracket right now, and save in their retirement account where you won't have to deal with taxes in the future. So I think the Roth is like the standard, should be the default. Like when you're born, the government should just sign you up. I'm not a big government person, just for the record, but anyway, there should be a law. Every parent should have to abide by this unwritten law where like every child gets signed up for a Roth IRA, so that way when they turn 18 or whatever, like that's their default retirement account to put money into.
That's one of the things that you were asking about, role models, financial role models. And like, that's a thing that I want to do differently as a parent than I experienced with my parents. My parents taught me a lot of things. They did not give me the way for me to see it. When my daughter is 18, we will open a Roth IRA because there's some rule, like you can only put in money that you make. So like whenever she has her first job or whatever, we'll do that.
Yeah, so you can do it before 18 if you have earned income. So like if they get a job at 15 and a half at the ice cream stand, you can sign up and put in whatever amount they earn. You can put that into an IRA.
Amazing. Okay, that's a good clarification. But like I learned things. I did not witness compound interest. And like maybe my retirement accounts would be a little bit different if 18-year-old me had $50 in an account where I saw how much it was growing.
You also followed it up with, you put it into the Vanguard target. So just for people who don't know, Vanguard is known as like the standard of the lowest possible fees. When retirement advice is like put it in index funds, which are naturally low fee, but Vanguard is known for the most part to have the lowest fees of all because they like passively deal with it. So you're not like paying active money managers. So if you know nothing about retirement, I don't give financial advice, but my default would be Roth IRA is step one. And then the money you're putting into that Roth IRA, yes, Vanguard is a good stock, like an index fund, and Vanguard would be a good one to look into. But that is like what I would just call like baseline financial advice. If you don't know what to do, Roth IRA, and then look into index funds, Vanguard being a good option. Okay, and then because you're a parent, this was new to me, life insurance. Do you have life insurance?
Yeah, we have the life insurance that State Farm told us we should take out on our kiddo when she was small. And then we each have our own policies as well.
Oh, amazing. I don't have one for Theo. I just have it for me and mom.
If there is something about, I mean, like we all know why life insurance, and like what a bummer conversation. But there was something else. There was a window of time for that product. Is what I think that memory was. Like if you do it now, before they're a year old, if you get this policy, then it's this cheap until they're 20. I'm definitely misremembering some specifics here, but it was not just you should have life insurance for your child. It was a child product that if you get it very soon is a great deal long term.
Amazing. And it's just on my mind because we just paid. That was like a cost that I did not see coming. Like they were like, you had a kid, and then suddenly everybody was like, "Where's your life insurance?" And I was like, "Oh, I did not know that was a thing." So it's roughly speaking, it's $1,000 for me and Nicole every year, very roughly speaking. And so anyway, I just paid mine, and Nicole's will be up in a couple months. But anyway, I'm just throwing that out if anyone's thinking about having kids.
All of our stuff is lumped in through State Farm in a way where like it's one mega terrible bill from State Farm every year for like both cars, all the life insurance policies. Like it's sorry, did I say every year? I mean every month. Like it's billed monthly, but it's really annoying how big it is. And then they split it up, so now there's like two, probably to separate like life and car and stuff. And it's just even more annoying for Monarch to show me multiple line items from State Farm.
All right. So outside of retirement, which we talked about Roth and the 403b, do you invest in anything? Are you an investing type person?
No. I struggle a lot. Like I think all of that feels evil on some level in a way that does not interest me. I thought it would. We did like set up a joint Vanguard and put some money into that, but like a few $100s, and that was like, look at this electronic cars or alternate transportation index fund or whatever it's called. But broadly speaking, no. I dabbled once to see if it would spark any interest, and no.
Yeah, I agree. Even on the show, we have like our 6K experiment, which is like we invested $5,000. And even that, like, I haven't looked at those things in like a year. I want to be interested because I know like money people say that's how you make money.
No, we did open a 529 plan for Rigel when she was born, and I think the bulk of the money that we had in the shared learn how to play with investing account, I just put in her 529, and I stopped thinking about it.
Well, and I know it's not like that, but in my brain, like a 529, a Roth IRA, a 403b, a home, like I know these are like not things that are investing, but to me, it's like that's how I invest. Like that's if you say invest, like that's what it is. And I know it's not like investment money, but like it's the same way you would invest if you had the money.
Yeah, I would love to invest in a more tangible way, like a house, instead of just like owning pieces of Vanguard.
What? Yeah, exactly. Amazing. Do you give to charity or do you put time and effort into the universe in any way?
Most of the charitable stuff that we do is like monthly donations to all sorts of stuff that slowly snowball and then make me panic, cancel all of them every 5 years or so. I'm quick to spend money and quick to, see credit card problems. But like, I want to think for all the right reasons. Like if during pandemic, I had a bunch of like circus performer friends who pivoted to like making stickers and selling art and stuff. And like, yeah, I signed up for all the Patreons. Send me all your weirdo art that you're pivoting into in pandemic. All sorts of stuff like that. That's not directly charity, but I'm quick to say yes, $10 a month to the local Kentucky Health Justice Network and stuff like that. But we don't sit down at tax time and say and $1,000 to UNICEF or anything. It's just monthly until we panic, cancel it all, and then restart.
Okay, so my panics happen in December, like Christmas time for some reason. And I was like, there has to be like, if you work at a nonprofit, there has to be this dip in December. But I just know that when I've had my panics of like, oh, I need a fresh start of all these charities, like cancel. All right, let's review. What do we actually want to put? Anyway, I always do it like end of December or early January. And I feel a little bad. But anyway, there has to be like some sort of dip that people see.
I think a lot of people do maybe it's a generational thing. I think my parents do all of their charitable donations during December. So maybe they're offsetting your panic canceling. For the people who are thinking of it annually at the end of the year, I think that's when they do it.
And also because you mentioned Patreon, let me hijack this because I have like not buyer's remorse, guilt. I don't know. I have like guilt is a thing in my life, right? So I have a Patreon for artistic finance, but I am very aware that sometimes I'm putting out episodes and sometimes I am not putting out episodes. I feel guilty when I'm not putting out episodes because people don't unsubscribe from my Patreon because of that. Like there's not a correlation of Ethan has disappeared off the planet for 3 months. We're going to unsubscribe. And I always feel really guilty about that because I want to say to people like, you can unsubscribe if you want. I totally understand. I panic unsubscribe sometimes. So I just want to say publicly here, if you're listening and you're a patron and you're like sticking around and you're not getting enough value out of me or you're like, Ethan, what the heck? I totally understand if you cancel. Cancel anytime. Doesn't have to be December. I want to encourage you. I won't get upset. If anybody understands about it, I understand like there's an ebb and flow to life. So if you're like doing it because of some sense of obligation, I want you to know that you can cancel. Okay, thank you. I got that off my chest.
But also the flip side, like if I'm donating to something monthly, I'm donating to support its existence. Like a monthly, in my brain, a monthly donation does not expect a return. I expect a return if I buy a ticket to a thing or if I buy a piece of art or whatever. Like if I'm paying to your Patreon or a monthly donation or something, I am doing it to set it and forget it and to know that I just want your thing to exist in the world. So I am not currently, because I did a recent panic purge, not currently a Patreon, but when I am, know that it is in support of the general existence. Like for me, there is no tit for tat if it's a monthly donation.
Yeah. All right, Jesse, I totally understand. It's totally cool, man. But also, yeah, I will say that like so I did this thing like for whatever reason, Charity Water and then Kiva, which is like it's a half charity because you're like lending money and they pay it back to you until they don't, which is totally fine because then at my point, it's like, it's a charity. So those are like two that I like a lot. I will say they're always like, when you donate, they're like, oh, do you want updates? And I'm always like, no, I don't. Like, I just want you to exist. I want you to do your thing. I support it. But like, I don't need you putting energy into like updating me. Like, if I gave you $1 million, I'd be a little more involved probably, but I'm not doing that.
And when I do the purge, it's just a panic, like, gotta wrangle in the credit card. Let's cancel everything. How hard it is to cancel will permanently color my impression of your organization or whatever. Human Rights Campaign, terrible. So hard to cancel that automatic payment. Like I'm not going to do that one again.
Yeah. And actually, speaking of Patreon, maybe this is why I feel guilty. Patreon does not make it easy to unsubscribe. I wish that they wouldn't do it that way. And I know they have the psychology and they figured it out and they're trying to benefit creators and themselves. So I don't blame them for this. But I will say I subscribe to other Patreons sometimes, right? Like currently right now. Anyway, there's this whole thing going on with Patreon of like a revamp. Anyway, that's not important. What is important is that I went in because I was like, I want to cancel a couple of these, like, because I have like 20 of them, right? And so I went in and I was like, I want to cancel a couple. And to cancel, there's some that I still am subscribed to because I couldn't figure out how to undo the thing. I agree. I also like Charity Water is really good about you canceling. They're like, are you sure? Okay, bye. And it's like, but that's super easy. Like the are you sure? Like that's a normal thing. So yes, I agree. There are certain organizations that I can't think of off the top of my head where I have not donated again because I'm like, it was too. Operation Smile, that might be one. Like amazing charity, like totally good, doing great work. But there's something really annoying about them and how they get you. Anyway, yes, I agree with you, Jesse.
And to be fair, Human Rights Campaign, that was years ago. Maybe it's changed. If anybody out there working for them, like, sorry to put you on blast.
No. But actually, just because UNESCO sort of sounds like UNICEF, there's a show I did at Arizona State University called Anthropocene, and they were invited by UNESCO to go perform it in Paris. And so right now, they're trying to raise money, and it costs like $50,000. It's a huge show. It's like 22 people plus lighting, sound, projections, stage manager, whatever. So it's like 22 or so people that they're taking. And so that's like $50,000 is like not paying anybody any money, whatever. But anyway, the UNESCO just said, okay, yes, we have two theaters that you can go into. Here's the one. One costs $15,000, one costs $30,000. And the person who's producing it, who's a professor at Arizona State, is like, I now have to raise $15,000 more than I was like planning. Anyway, so where this comes into my brain is I'm not going to go on the show. They don't necessarily know this. They think I'm going to Paris. I'm not. So hopefully they don't listen because now they're rudely hearing that I'm not going. But I'm hoping that they'll take a student, because I'm very organized with my lighting paperwork on that show. So like this student, I have full confidence. I think it'd be great for them to take a student too. Basically, to like go to Paris unpaid to do a show is just not something that's in my world right now. But this student who's never been out of the country, yes. Anyway, but I, as a human being, I like want to donate to them. But I'm like conflicted in my brain because I'm like, one, I earn my money and I like to keep it. And then two, it's like in arts and I support the arts, but do I make enough money to be able to like support the arts and like support the student? So I don't know how I got off on this tangent, but it's like a conflicting thing right now in my life where I'm like, I want to give them some money, because I think them going and doing the show was incredible, but also, anyway.
That's a really hard feeling to reconcile, and I don't know the answer except that I think that it's totally okay to not donate to the places that you work. It's so hard to advocate for a fee and then at the end of the year send that organization $50. Like, why? Like, that's a weird cycle. On some level, you're saying you could have paid me $50 less and we'd all be even. And nobody's doing that work. They're just saying thanks for the $50. But it's psychologically, it's weird. And I'm just so happy that when we do that, my wife is the one that like donates to the ballet or whatever, and I don't think about it at all. Yeah,
and I don't work there anymore, and I got paid roughly 60. I think it was 62,000 when I worked there. So in my brain, I'm like, it also hurts me to give them like money when they only paid me so much money, like, and after taxes again, right? So I really got 40,000 out of the organization. And anyway, but I don't work there anymore, so I feel like it's a little better for me. And what I did do is they had somebody who like was like, we'll give you $500 if you get 21 people to donate, and so I gave them $5. So I've at least done that part of it. Like I've given my $5 token to help them reach the goal. Anyway, okay, all right. We have talked like way too long, and thank you for giving me all this time. So let me try to blast through the rest of this. Oh, actually, we're pretty much done. So let me just wrap up, and that is regarding finances. Is there any advice that you would give to somebody who's like starting their career right now that might be able to help them out?
I mean, this is maybe not great advice. See all my mentioning credit card. But I think that it's important that if we're working in this art, like if you're doing this and you're working in theater and dance and opera and stuff, like this advice is maybe not real if you're getting into work as like a corporate AV tech or something. But I think it's important that the gig is fun and comfortable, and that it's totally okay to spend too much money on the tool that makes the job easier. Like, buy the tool that lets you spend 2 hours less at load-in, even if that starts to negate the fee you're making for that week or something. Like, invest in you enjoying your work. The large example of this is if you're doing a lot of small work in places that use like the ETC Nomad and a laptop for their lighting console, buy your own programming wing and lug it around from place to place. If it means that you are that much faster, you get out of there that much sooner, they're not going to pay you for the rental of that or anything. That's not what I'm saying. It's not an investment piece, but invest in your sanity. If you having a Nomad or programming wing for the Nomad means you're not hunched over a laptop dealing with moving lights on a scroll pad, do it. Invest in yourself and your time. Time is your most valuable resource. Buy some tools to save some of it.
Jesse, you are speaking to my heart. Because one, I bought myself a Nomad, which at the time when I purchased it 15 years ago, it was like for half a universe, it cost like $1,000, right? So I ended up spending like $4,000 on that and the dongle, and eventually I got it up to 2 universes. And now I think if you buy them, you get 4 universes by default. Somebody fact check me on that. Anyway, they've advanced from that. So whatever the number is now,
I think it's 2, but also fact check me.
Oh, okay.
I think it's 2 or 6. Like that. Those are the 2 levels, I think.
Okay, amazing. So I think mine is by default 2 then, probably, because I never upgraded it. But at some point, I had only purchased 1, and then they upgraded, and they just defaulted. We're like, if you had 1, you now get 2, because that's our new standard. Because I emailed them, and they're like, it just automatically happened. And I was like, oh, thank you. Anyway, I bought this because I would work at these tiny little theaters or schools, and they would have IQs, and then they would like give me expressions, and IQs are like handy tools, but not on old software. So I spent the money at the time, got myself a half a universe, so that way I could just use my laptop and move the mover without having to do it the old painful way, because like my life is too short. I have used that probably at least once a year, the Nomad, for 15 years. Like, I have used it so many times. In fact, the last gig I just did was in Nashville, Tennessee. They had a Strand console or Verilight console or something, more of the story, didn't know how to patch it, didn't know how to work it. So I just took my laptop, and I wish I had a programming wing, because I like had 8 movers, and like, yes, I can do it, and I did it, but like it was so much more painful than it needed to be. So Jesse, a programming wing is one of those things where I have like not purchased it because I'm like, I just can't go there in my career. Like, I can't be that person that shows up with their own like programming wing. And they're also semi-expensive. So that's another thing that I haven't done.
Yeah, they're not cheap.
But going back in time, like that gig would have been so much easier, better, faster had I had the programming wing.
And in no way do I want to say to a younger person, I'm not saying buy it and put on a credit card and you'll be happy. But I am saying that if you find yourself in that situation and you're paying it off on a credit card over a few months, yeah, you're paying more than that ticket price, but like it's worth it. Like that's how I have built my career and financial situation. I'm so happy with the work that I'm doing, and I have paid more for those tools that because I've paid interest and stuff on them at sometimes if I can't afford to buy the programming wing. But Circus Flora Full Circle is being run off of a Dell PC that I bought a few years ago in St. Louis when an old computer died, and a Nomad dongle and my programming wing and a couple of monitors that they are paying a rental for that. But that I ended up in that situation because when I inherited that gig, it was run off of an Expression 2X that I inherited from Christina Ferriter and then also rented to Flora, and was eventually like this. I would prefer a laptop and a Nomad now over floppy disks. The day I took floppy disks out of my work bag was still like 2019 or something.
That's super late for that.
I know, but it was 2016. I was still using that console.
That's amazing. That is so good. And I actually want to say, you were like, the company's not going to rent it back from you. And that is true. But I will say there have been like, not many, right? So I don't think it's paid for it. When you're working for like a low rate company, like for example, like one of your $750 rate companies, I think there have been times in my life where I'm like, okay, I'll do the gig, but I really need to bring my laptop and I need you to pay me $100 for it. Or like, I need my laptop plus like, I need to buy a socket or like something. And I've been able to like add $100 or $200 onto a fee. So that way I could just bring some light bulbs and also my laptop. So there is also like a way in which you can sort of maybe get paid back a little bit, or at least justify it. Again, I've just done that over the years. I just factored it into my own life of like, I'm going to buy this $1,500 thing at the time. And then the next year I bought the next $1,500 upgrade. So I spread it over my life, but I'm just saying you can add that in a little, like I've had some success doing that, but just on a minor scale where it's just like, give me 75 extra bucks and then I'm going to bring some equipment to make all of our lives easier.
Yeah, that like is absolutely a thing everybody should try for, when you're bringing your own gear. My statement is more like you're going to have to show them that gear is worth. You can't like call them and say, I'm only going to take this if I can bring a programming wing that I don't have yet. So for me, the way that this worked out really, really well, I started bringing the programming wing to the $750 gigs. And then that venue, which at the time was like 3 companies in one theater, all operating at the same financial level, they eventually bought a programming wing because they saw the value of it. And now I'm benefiting from my purchase of it, and I don't have to lug mine around, or I can leave it at another show. Like me making that investment convinced them to do the same upgrade. And now I am living the same bougie programming wing life in that theater now. And I don't have to haul that Pelican case around. Yeah. It's not a loss to me that they bought one. It's a huge benefit.
Yeah. Amazing. I love it. And also I just want to say that like we had Erica Hill, who's a programmer on like Hog, I think. Hog or Graname is like her preferred concert. But there is a level in which super crazy programmers will have the concert or whatever, or the tour rent out her own console. That is a level you can get to, but that's not what we're speaking on. We're speaking on like much smaller.
Yeah, this question started with like advice to young people entering the industry. And that advice is do not buy a $30,000 console. It is maybe invest in a fancy keyboard that has some encoders, aka programming wing.
Yeah, a $6,000. I don't know how much a programming wing is right now.
It's I believe it's pretty steady at $3,600. So and the Pelican case, like custom for it, was ballpark 700. Like I remember it being under 5,000 for what I felt as the whole investment of programming wing and case and a keyboard lock, or not keyboard, a laptop lock, stuff like that, under 5,000.
Okay. All right. Because now it's in my brain, but also like I don't think I personally need it. But again, that gig would have been so much better. So now, okay. All right. Last question for you. Where can people connect with you, and who do you want to connect with you, if anybody?
Yeah, I love to talk, as proved by this 2-hour recording. Please reach out if you have anything to talk to me about. My professional Instagram is just lit by Jesse. And then my email is jesse.r.alford@gmail.com. Oh, my website is litbyjesse.com. But I need website help. You know who should reach out to me is somebody who wants an unpaid internship fixing my Squarespace website.
That is amazing. Although
It's not broken, it just could be better.
I actually will say to myself that Mitch Dana, who doesn't have a website anymore, is retired, and Peter Kazarowski, I actually have done both their websites for them. So like, even though I am a designer, like I just happen to know computers and they don't. And so both of them paid me to maintain their websites. Anyway.
My hurdle is like, I need to sit down. I need to do the archaeology of these are the photos I want on the website. Like if you were to say, I'm volunteering to help you, I would still be like, oh no, I don't know what to hand you to put on the website.
And then I will say with Peter, like I did really good. Like he contacted the people to get his photos because he's worked at such a level, Broadway, that like he has to get permission to get the photos to get the people, or he'll sometimes have to like pay for them because of that. I don't have this issue with my life. I just take whatever photos I want. But basically he put those people in contact with me, and I was the one that like did that archaeology work of like putting the Dropbox together and organizing it. So like I did just light Yiddish Fiddler up in Toronto, and normally my website is woefully out of date and I don't go update it because it's so much work to find those photos and who took them and then put them up. And like, as a lighting designer, like you feel some sort of sense of like, well, I have to show the lighting, right? This is where my brain gets caught because I'm like, well, that's an amazing photo, but does it really show the lighting? And the reality, so spoiler alert for everybody, if the photo looks good, just put it up, regardless of whether it's showing a costume or something. And if it's not showing the lighting, who cares? If it's a cool photo, do it.
Yeah, I need my website to show that I know what I'm doing in this industry. Like I don't have an MFA or anything else after my name that would make some choreographer or director that doesn't know me feel confident in me if we've just been paired together. So my website just needs to say, this guy knows what he's doing.
Yeah, exactly. And I was saying, like, with Yiddish Fiddler Toronto, they sent photos out. They were like, here's the photos. So then I was like, you know what, Ethan? Let's just put this. So I just took the photos and put them on my website. And I was like, that was easy. But it was only because they had done the photo work. Jesse, this was awesome. Thank you. Over 2 hours. I'm sorry. I blame you for this. I'm a very succinct person.
That's fair.
Clearly. No, this was super awesome for me. And I just thank you for going an hour extra than we should have.
I've listened to plenty of your podcasts that were more than an hour. So this feels like a natural length.
All right. Well, I will see you around town. Hopefully I'll see you at the circus next year if I don't see you before then. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. This is great. Thank you for having me.
That's it for this week's episode. Because this was a little bit long, the only takeaway I'm going to say is that if home ownership is a goal for you, look into it sooner than later. Jesse made sure that we know that you don't necessarily need a big down payment to purchase a home. So look into it, visit the website of your local credit union or give them a call and ask about it, because maybe, just maybe, it's something that you could start sooner than later. All right. Thank you, Jesse. That was absolutely amazing. Before we part ways, a couple miscellaneous thoughts. So first, I don't have any more interviews recorded. I've got some in the works, but nothing is booked. So I think what I'm going to do next week is read a couple of LinkedIn posts and articles. There have been some entertaining ones that I've seen, and I want to read their comment threads to you. It might be fun. Or if you have an idea for a topic, send me a message. Let me know. The other thing is that with this episode, we, Artistic Finance, are going to reach 68,000 downloads. Now, that's a total from 6 years, and it's an arbitrary number. It's just where we happen to be this week. And it sounds pretty cool, right? But it actually translates to almost exactly 300 downloads per episode. And that isn't distributed evenly. So some episodes have 100 and others have 500. But for the past 4 years, I've pretty much leveled off at 200 downloads per episode. So each week, I know pretty much 200 downloads are going to happen. Now, if I assume that 50 of those are my family and friends and random robots from the internet, that puts us at 150 listeners. Now, I'm breaking this all down to say that's a really small audience. However, it is not nothing, and I am so appreciative that you click listen and spend an hour or two with me. And I've just been thinking about this because I myself listened to a podcast from a guy in Oklahoma, and I'm not going to mention the name of it just because it has nothing to do with theater, lighting, or finance, but I've been listening for 16 years, which is almost as long as podcasts have even existed. Now, I looked it up. They've been around since 2004, but for the first few years of his show, he called it an internet radio broadcast because the word podcast was an Apple thing, and he wasn't using Apple. But in my Google search, apparently the podcast Serial in 2015 caused this huge surge of people starting to listen to podcasts. So mentioning this to you, listener, because if you've been listening since before 2015, you were early to the party. Who knew? We were trendsetters. Anyway, I have watched this podcaster age over the years. So he was 42 when he started out. Now he's 58. I saw him get married. His father passed away. I imagine his mother's going to pass away sooner rather than later. He's always updating us on his pets. And so I feel like I know his pets too. And then of course those pets have crossed the Rainbow Bridge and we've mourned them. But then eventually, right, he's gotten more pets and now I know those pets. So I know the guy really well. And he's not a celebrity or anything. He's just somebody who's broadcasting about a niche topic and he keeps putting it out. But I'm so glad that he exists and that he puts out content. And would my life be the same if he didn't exist or if he stopped? Sure. But I'm just so glad that it's a place that I can go. I listen in, I connect. I don't have any strings attached or commitments to it in reality. It's all on my time when I feel like it. So I'm saying all that because I'm thinking there have to be some people listening right now that I've never met. Right? Surely in that 150 number, there's some people, but you know that I'm here and I know that you're there and we're sharing this space and time, but we're not really, and we're doing it on our own time. And I just think that that's super cool. So without seeing you, I see you, and I am so glad that you are here. Okay, that is enough transcendent thought for today. Let us transcend on out of here. Thank you for listening. Until next time, break a leg.
Thank you for listening to Artistic Finance, where we interview successful artists, leaders, and investors to help educate and inspire the creative community. To access our show notes and resources, go to artisticfinance.com. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before making any decision, consult a professional. This show is copyrighted by Artistic Finance. Written permission must be granted before syndication or rebroadcasting.